Time for the market report. Yet another price drop last week.
That's right, mostly in row crops, with cotton the only exception. Livestock making moves too, and we'll get into it. But first, the numbers. Downward fall again. We'll see last week's biggest rises and falls. And then in our row report, why are grains going down? And finally, in the cattle markets, prices rising. What's moving them? So last week we saw a drop in row crop prices with one exception, while livestock a mixed bag as well. Let's take a look. Last week's biggest loss, corn down 31 3/4 cents, a 5.42% drop from the previous week. The reasons have to do with this year's planting season. Last week's biggest gain, cotton, up about 6 1/4 cents. That's a 7.69% increase in price from the previous week. Quite dramatic, and we'll talk about it. In this week's row report, we're taking a look at the fall of grain prices last week, a fall that actually started 2 weeks ago. However, what it looks like, at least according to market analyst John Roach, we're seeing season's lows coming early this year.
Well, it's possible that we could be setting the season's low in the month of May, but that would be very unusual. Typically, season's low come closer to fall when we have bushels moving off of the field and a certain percentage of them getting sold as they're harvested. But we could also have a weather problem come along at any time and change the whole outlook as far as production is concerned here in the United States. And we still have a corn crop to raise in Brazil, where they've got a very dry forecast forward during a period of time when about a third of their crop is in silk and 40–50% is in the fill stage, the dough stage. So there's still a lot of weather situation ahead, but assuming the weather is favorable, then we would think prices have further to decline. This week should have been rally week, and it started out on Monday that way, but it quickly faded, and we tried to rally several days this week, but every time it faded and slid back lower. So we think there's more pressure. What farmers need to think about is we had really very big markets, high prices, record high prices in some of our crops, and that's over. And now we're on the other side, and usually after you have very high prices, you pay a very big penalty with low prices as demand is constrained and people change their livestock situation. So we're concerned about the market, and we think that with good weather, we probably don't see lows until fall. Plantings are expected to be well off this year compared to last, and they're off to a very slow start. We've got some weather issues in some various areas, but we're getting a sell signal where the market closed today. So if you're a cotton producer and you're looking for a place to make some sales, we think now's the time to be making some sales, both on old crop and new crop.
In our livestock report, we're focusing on cattle. Last week saw the release of this month's cattle on feed report. So what did it say, and what are the effects? In short, cattle on feed down 3% compared to this time last year. Once again, John Roach gives us the details.
Well, the cattle market's really been in a strong upward move really through most of the spring, and we closed today right up at the top of the market. The cattle on feed report was not much of a surprise. The concern that we have in cattle is that the marketings this last month were down 10% from a year ago. That was expected. There was no surprise. But when you're running marketings that much below a year ago, we're holding back cattle, we think, and when cattle are not losing, the beef is not at a lighter weight, and so we think maybe producers are holding back some finished cattle and putting a little extra gain on them. At this kind of price level, it makes sense to them.
And that's it for a deeper look into the markets. Looks like a correction is underway, at least in row crops. We'll see how long it continues, but at least it'll be interesting.